45% of healthcare workers say they're planning to retire in 5 years. Holy cow, what are we going to do?
Today's guest is Kerry Chartrand, CEO of Wentoo, a bold leader blending operations expertise and tech innovation. She's known for challenging industry norms, driving process transformation, and mobilizing the next generation to step into senior care with clarity and courage.
The job shouldn't be the barrier to taking care of someone.
Like, I honestly had a moment sitting at my desk of just the wave of emotion that came over me, thinking, because at the same time, there's not going to be capacity. Almost half of our people are leaving. Our acuity levels are going up at rapid rates. And that's across the board, retirement and long-term care. Like, it's coming.
I feel like we're the perfect storm.
It's the perfect storm.
I just got full body chills.
I know.
Hi guys, we're back with Kerry Stewart, Vice President of Operations for Lion Healthcare. And I'm joined by, if I was less of a rookie podcaster and more dramatic, I would do like the full New Heights Travis Kelce intro to my guest, Kerry Chartrand, who continues to blow me away with the things you're doing in a very important industry for people who really need us. So Kerry, if I track your career correctly, you've spanning decades of finance, operations, senior leadership, and now turned tech CEO of Wentoo, which I know I've had the opportunity to have a look at, and it's amazing. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So I just want to say welcome and a huge thank you for joining me today to share insights in the senior care industry and just keep talking.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I think the background and the history in the sector goes both ways. So I love that we're here together having this conversation, because we've certainly got a breadth of experience to go over.
Well, for me, it's a bit of like fanfare, because I grew up under you in the industry. When I came into senior living, you were my boss's boss, just for the record. You were the supervisor to my supervisor. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, I kind of want to be her when I grow up. She has this amazing blend of eloquence, but firmness. And I got the sense that maybe your approach to leadership was really being fair, firm, and fun.
Right.
And I know it was effective. And so talk to me about your journey, Kerry. What are you focused on? What's your passion? How did we get here today?
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, it has been quite a ride. And it's so funny to me to think back that I may have been your boss's boss, because certainly when you came through the door, it was, you know, a very equal relationship. But I think that that's the case generally for me when I'm working with people, is I see everyone as a piece of what needs to get done. And I try to stay focused on that as kind of the main pillar of my leadership. And so that has served well. And I do like to be fun, sometimes a little more casual than some leaders are, but that's okay. But yeah, so you're right. I started back in the O's.
The O's. I love that. Let everyone else figure out what the O's mean.
Many years ago.
Right.
And, you know, it was really a fluke that I got into senior living, because I was an accountant, like I was a pure bean counter. And I was looking for work. I was looking up in the Toronto area. I actually received an offer from a company that I did not feel alignment with. And I said to the recruiter, it's not right for me. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad. I had to present an offer, and the senior living company wants to offer you as well. And if you had said yes to the first one, I would not have been allowed to present you this offer.
Wow, the universe aligned.
The universe aligned. And so the courage to say no to a role when I did not have a job in the moment was, you know, in hindsight, that was pretty bold. But so that's how I got into senior living. And I think a lot of us fluke in a little bit, right? We're looking for something, we're looking for our next step, and we find this industry, and then it turns into something that, you know, I call it the golden path of a career. It's just the most rewarding, challenging, intellectually challenging, and then personally rewarding industry I think that you can be in. So yeah, so I held a few roles in the finance world. I was fortunate to be on many projects and do a lot of work really improving process and improving the way we delivered service to operations as a finance person. And then that opened the door for me to really think about, you know, do I want to be in the corporate kind of number side of the business. I had done merger and acquisition stuff, and like I was really getting to participate in some really excellent parts of the business, but I wanted to move into working with people. And so I made the transition actually from a corporate leader to being an executive director at the frontline. And at the time,
I missed that little nugget.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that of course it makes sense that you did the executive director role when you moved into the regional and the vice president role. But I think I missed that part.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting because it could have been perceived. I mean, corporate, as we know, corporate role world can be perceived as kind of a step up from the field world. But it was really, to me, a step up to go into the field world because that's really where the work happens, you know? And so that was a phenomenal experience. And then that was where I started navigating my operations leadership and, to your point, into senior leadership roles. And I worked for a handful of different companies and have just honestly had the most phenomenal 20 years.
to 20 years.
To 20 years. Really the most phenomenal 20 years that you could ever ask for in a career. And in a career that I was so fortunate enough to simply stumble into. I don't know how many people get to say that.
Well, it's funny because with the few guests that we've had, and again, we're just starting out as podcasters, so be kind in the audience as we navigate through doing something wildly uncomfortable. But a lot of people have talked about that exact thing. So it's a calling. It's almost something that in retrospect, you think, did I plan this?
Right.
Because it draws out your purpose. It draws out your why. And it really presents people with the opportunity to feel good about getting out of bed in the morning, to go to their job, as they say. And I know one of the leaders, and I've spoken to this in earlier podcasts, that I came across early in my career, the question was, well, you didn't land here because there's no money in newspapers. Like, what's your story?
Yeah.
Right. And so now we know your story. And we also know there was a bit of divine and universal intervention there because we could have lost you to a detour.
Right. Right. In a very different sector, manufacturing, where there really isn't the contribution that we get here in senior living. We're so lucky to work in this industry. Truly. I think it every day. And I hope that more and more young people start choosing us as a career path because it's very rewarding and it's challenging. I think that's another piece of it, right? There's the people reward, and I love that part of it. And there's room for everyone, which I think is great. Every skill set has to come together to make this industry tick, whether you're technical, you're, a people leader, your sales, like there's just so much to be done. But, I really like spending time with young people and saying, come join our sector. We need you. And you have the skills, I guarantee it, to be in this industry. And you will be challenged. You will learn. You will do things that you never imagined you'd be doing. And so I think that's part of when you find your passion for it, it also can continue to evolve and stimulate you. And you can, I've been down 3 paths now. I've had 3 whole different careers right within the same sector without ever leaving it. So I think that makes us very special and very dynamic.
I think it's amazing that nobody's paying you to do that public service announcement. Right. You're not it's not part of your role to do outreach to the community. It's not part of your responsibility by anyone's manuscript as the CEO of a tech company that is now serving back into the senior care industry. But talk to me about what drives you to do that. Because I know based on conversations that you and I have had, Kerry, that you are in the schools, you are having those conversations. And I know I got inspired when we were preparing for this podcast and having a chat sort of preamble by the fact that you just took that on because you felt the responsibility. Talk to me about what that is.
Yeah. It's the same reason that I founded Wentoo. It kind of all melds together. I have children, of course, and my youngest went through 10th grade. She's moved on now, but when she went to her careers class, I said, you know what, let your teacher know I'll come speak to the class. And I kind of got on her a little bit about it because I was like, I want to come because I think this is important. And I did. And we have had just a phenomenal relationship. The school and I having me back each semester. There's probably 6 classes a semester that I talk to of young folks. And I just There's two things. One, I think that teenagers and seniors have a lot in common.
Yeah.
I think that when we talk about the way we look at them socially, I think that there's a lot of overlap there. And so I have a real soft spot for teenagers for the same reason that I like being in this industry. And I also, we know, right, that staffing our industry is a challenge. And we have to get out. And I hope everyone in the sector will take time to go and speak to young folks. Because when I get into a classroom and I say, who knows someone that works in senior living or who has been in a retirement home, 2 hands per class will go in the air. And when I'm done, they don't say a lot. They're teenagers. They don't say a lot while I'm in the room. Some do. Sometimes I get into really good dialogue, but sometimes it's very quiet. Just depends on the class. But the teacher always messages me after and says, our conversation after you left, there are kids now considering this as a career path. And when I think I fluked into this industry and I didn't really consider it or know it existed, even though I knew the retirement home down the road where my grandparent was going to go, I didn't know I could have this robust of a career here. No one told me that. And we have to tell the next generation, we have to introduce them so that they'll come and choose us. And I think they will. So it's evolving. I can't really share too much yet because we're in early stages,
Secrets.
but
I love
yeah, it's evolving out of the classroom, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So there's more work to be done there. So yeah, I love it. It's really special.
I think it's, when I think about the values associated with that practice, I think about keeping it simple, right? Like we're sitting around, imagine a giant board table, a bunch of people who care about this industry, who care about the numbers, who care about the quality of life, who care about, the engagement of the workforce and people being happy and feeling good about their jobs. And then we think of that sort of cloud that has sat over us for many years. And it's, what's the solution?
Right.
It's a huge question. Obviously, there's many moving parts. It's complex. But I think going into schools or reaching out to the younger generation, as we say, I think part of it is opening up. It's not just nursing.
Right.
It's not just being a personal support worker. It's not just the clinical side.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm discovering through having conversations with many leaders in the industry is maybe we haven't been awesome at getting that message out.
Correct.
I have a business background and I've found an incredibly fruitful career in the senior living space, including massive growth, empathy, and certainly gaining passion for an industry and people who I feel we do have a responsibility to look after. And I count myself as one of the lucky ones. So moving on from that, Kerry, I know from working with you that you are a big fan of process.
Yeah.
You have this amazing blend of empathy and linear thinking. And again, I always factor fun into that because very rarely do you see you without a smile on your face. But the process part of our industry is loaded with complexity.
Yeah.
It's also loaded with many factors that contribute to attrition, burnout. Let's talk, even profit and loss to be able to reinvest into the company. So as a fan of that, and certainly as somebody who's done a lot of work getting there, talk to me about the importance of process and talk to me about what you're doing to sort of help us along.
Yeah. And I do feel very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to work on both sides of the business, to be in that very process driven and do reorgs on structure and put in budgeting tools and this kind of stuff that's, to many people very boring. And then work in the field and be throwing the team builder event and to be having the stand-up meeting with the frontline team members and hearing what their struggles are and talking about residents and being able to say, so why do we think that resident is having that struggle and how can we have an impact on that? Or, seeing a nurse who's just having a wretched day and thinking, okay, what's happening for that person? Like, how do I support them in a way that will, take them through and keep them with us? And so having been on both sides of that is such a gift. And I certainly encourage anyone who's maybe on one side or the other who thinks I'm kind of done with this part to make the transition.
Love that message.
Yeah,
That's
make
amazing.
the transition.
Yeah.
And even if you've spent your whole career in the field, like definitely, and you see the solution, make the leap, do it. But yeah, so I've really had the pleasure of being both sides. And I think that's where with Wentoo in particular, being able to take both of those experiences and put them together and say, we've got some absurdly manual processes in our business. I mean,
amen.
When we really stop to think about what we have automated in terms of clinical platforms and employee platforms, and all of that is amazing, good stuff. Most certainly, I'm an advocate for all of it. But then when we need someone to execute their compliance, we're drafting a PDF email and blasting it across Canada into 100 inboxes with fingers crossed that
bankers' boxes of papers coming
bankers'
tomorrow.
boxes of a binder in someone's office, pigeons. I mean, support office has no idea whether things are done or not. We're living from kind of this well-intended but blind trust because we haven't really had another mechanism. And so with Wentoo, what we're trying to do here is take those manual processes that is still live and breathe in the field today and get them into system automation. So we're starting with compliance. And we don't just mean regulatory compliance. We're taking brand standards, operational compliance. You've got a whole boatload of stakeholders. You're in the field, you know, because you've been in the field. I've been in the field. We've both been on the receiving ends of the inbox.
Oh no, I'm angry at you that this wasn't happening 10 years ago. Very, just make that note right now. We are officially in a fight.
That's right. I'm bitter. Yeah, I mean, it really is a little bit shocking that it hasn't existed before now, but I think it's a small number of people that are impacted, the management level. And yet the impact is massive. And so we have solved for the volume impact first in the industry. And now we need to really look at our managers. And so I'm a big, big believer that process is about people. Because if I bring you into my organization and I just throw you a set of keys to your office door and here's where you find your shared folder and there's a few binders behind you on the desk there, good luck, Godspeed. Call me if you need anything, right? And then that leader is like, I'm not going to call. Clearly, they don't have time for me, right? And I mean, I'm sure many people listening are like, oh, yeah, I've been there, I've done that, right? And that's not ill-intended on the person who's tossing the keys because they also are,
It's rinse and repeat. Like it's literally, it's traveling downhill. And I've watched that play out. I'm very grateful that I had that experience because I'm a swimmer.
Yeah.
I'm not a sinker.
Right.
However, I don't know if you can expect you from everyone.
That's exactly what I feel about it. That's exactly how I feel. So when I look at process and I look at clarity and I say, that's kind of how we've been doing things, the next generation of leaders. So as I go out to the high schools and say, hey, folks, choose us, choose our industry, come join us. Can I expect that those who say, that sounds incredible, I'm going to do that, are all going to be swimmers?
No. And
we're in a position where, as an industry, I was sharing this just before the podcast, so I'll share it here again. I wrote an article, the AI bot and I wrote an article for LinkedIn just yesterday.
I love that you have like a bot AI that you acknowledge in your podcast. Like, thank you for being transparent. Most people are like, oh no, I wrote it.
I'm a creative genius.
No, you didn't.
The bot and I collaborate. So anyway, and I was really, because what I was trying to do was source data, right? I was trying to source data around, what we know anecdotally. Now, I like to get some data around it. So bring me the studies. Tell me what's out there. And U of Windsor did some research. And 45% of healthcare workers say they're planning to retire in 5 years. 45%. Presumably 45%
I just got full body chills.
I know. I honestly had a moment sitting at my desk of just the wave of emotion that came over me thinking, holy cow, what are we going to do? Because at the same time, what we know to be true is there's not going to be capacity. Acuity levels are going to rise, and that's across the board, retirement and long-term care. Across the board, we're going to have capacity issues. So if we have almost half of our people are leaving and we're bringing in new managers, and at the same time, our acuity levels are going up, at rapid rates, as well as compression on like demand is going to far exceed supply. We're in a bit of a like it's coming.
I feel like we're the perfect storm.
It's the
comes to
perfect
mind,
storm.
right? I don't know if it's been referred to that in the industry, but
Yeah.
it feels to me like, and we know it's coming.
We know.
So
We know. And everyone in this industry, I just believe they're good people. Like we are the sum of good parts. But we are built through acquisition, fragmented. I had 4, now I bought 5, and now they were with this company, now they're with that company. And that slows down process. That slows down the clarity that comes from process. And so what I wanted to do with Wentoo is step back and say, if I really want to serve the people, how would I do that? I would give them absolute clarity over their roles. I will spoon feed them what the day looks like when they come through the door so that they don't have to try to remember, because we all know you sit down in your office, it's 8:30 and it's knock, knock, knock. Do you have a minute?
or you look up and it's 3:00 and you haven't left your computer.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And so I had an ED that is just new into our system say to me, I am just so under the weather and I'm so foggy today. And when I could go over there and there was something that just directed me on the next step, it was like I heard angels singing. And I was like, that's the mission. That's the mission, that one person gets a cold, as they will, because we're in senior living.
As you can hear in my voice, I'm not doing my best Kim Carnes impersonation. I'm also fighting whatever is going on. Yeah.
Same. I was taking the Tylenol cold this morning. I thought, I don't know if it's coming, but it might be.
Yeah.
But we're all in that boat, right?
Yeah.
And so for a leader to say, I felt like something had my back, like that's the mission. That's it's not about software. It's really about how do we get that clarity into the hands of those managers? Because if 45% are leaving, the new 45, I mean, I don't need to
it's
articulate.
almost like there's a whole existential crisis on mastery. Like how do we harness the experience and information that's coming from people who are aging out of their roles?
Yeah.
Where do we deposit that? How do we make that so, if they leave, we can still continue?
Right.
And then the other part, I think, Kerry, is all the connected tissue from the subjective communication. If you're the operator, if you're the person or the organization that is responsible for, you're the employer, what does it say to the person when you invest in something that provides clarity?
Absolutely.
Like, what are you communicating to the front line?
That's right. That's right. That we want you to have this and we want you to know. And, there is, I hear it all the time and I love it and I commend it. And I think it's the right attitude to have, but it's kind of like, if our people make a mistake, they know it's okay. As in, we're not punitive around mistakes. And I appreciate that that's the approach. I took that approach when I was a leader of saying like, okay, everybody's human. And so there's going to be times. But the reality is the weight of that mistake on a person who cares as much as our frontline people care is far too heavy for us to allow space for it to occur.
I think what comes to mind for me, because I've been in that situation where you can set the tone, you can set the standard, you can say no, you can say yes, you can create an environment where it's safe to have a conversation, you can respect what your direction is from head office, from the region, whoever is governing, how things go, and yet mistakes still happen. And if you're somebody who cares, as often is the case with our industry, it's devastating,
Right.
to carry that load. And knowing that there's a solution to that, and nothing's infallible, but I think putting our best foot forward, and automating and creating certainty and giving people that peace of mind. When I went home as an executive director, I'm an administrator, a general manager, whatever you wanted to call us, not once in that span of time did I leave work at work.
Right.
Like, it didn't happen. So I joke even today, I've slept with my phone for 10 years, right? Like, it's been at my bedside. The house is on fire. I have to go. And I think what you're saying is there's an opportunity, maybe not to eliminate that feeling, but certainly give people the opportunity to say, I'm going to be with my family this weekend. I don't have to worry about what's culminating, what's mounting.
Yeah.
I can either check or I can plan in a way that allows me to step away.
Right. You've hit it right on the head, right? I don't know that we are ever going to be able to solve fully for the mental load of operations because, I can remember the snow starts falling, right? And I'm sitting I'm sitting in my window at 10 o'clock at night thinking, do I just drive into the building because they're calling for 6 feet? And if I wait till morning, I might not be able to get there because it's a town over, or do I go to sleep? What do I do? And I don't know that we can solve for that in our industry. I think what we have to do is recognize that cost of mental load, we have to offset it by automating everything else. So if you are blasting out PDF emails of checklists and don't forget, and oh my goodness, and hey, a regulator walked in over in Windsor, and now I'm e-blasting up to Ottawa saying, hey, heads up, make sure you've got all this in place because I, as the operator,
you're building the plane
can't
as you
go
fly
in and
it
look
all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. If we could just take that piece, because we can automate that, right? So let's automate that. Yeah. And then knowing that there's all the other things we need to do to take care of that mental load. But if we could cut it in half, then we've done the right thing.
I feel like, I recognize that there's a bunch of people, governing sort of where this industry is going that are far smarter than I am and have way more experience. And I respect that, I don't know everything and there's parts of it that are probably happening that, I'm not aware of. But the more I talk to people and the more we do this podcast, the more I'm starting to believe that this might be the thread to pull on.
Right.
The automation, AI, leveraging all of that stuff to take on the tasks, to provide clarity. Ultimately, it doesn't matter about task mastering. I think what matters is getting your time back and what do we do with that time? And also, what is the value of that time?
Right.
Or that peace of mind, right? Really measuring what are the contributing factors to the attrition, why people are retiring, why people are deciding not to enter the industry, and maybe looking at all of the to-dos and the chaos that a lot of us, respectfully and willingly worked through to do an excellent job. And this is by no means suggesting that the industry's broken, because it isn't. I see a sea of wonderful people, to your point, all the sum of good parts. But I also see a glaring responsibility for us to really say, okay, what's the priority?
Right.
And
I think you're bang on that. I totally agree. And I think the industry is moving. I see us collectively having these conversations more around what technology do we need. And we call it the razzle dazzle at Wentoo. We are really basics, fundamentals, get the people the information they need. And you can pepper in that razzle dazzle all around that with some AI tools and, the training materials and all this other great stuff. But fundamentally, we have to really get crystal clear on exactly what we want people to do when they walk through the door every day and how we're going to support them in the event that their day implodes and they don't get to it, because I've walked into it raining in my office in the field.
Ditto.
A week of vacation. Oh, it's raining in my office.
It's a rite of passage, Kerry.
It's a rite of passage. But I can tell you, I got nothing done that day, right?
Enough.
And so I think it really behooves us. And I agree with you. I think everyone in this industry is really working towards how we do this very, very well. I don't ever have conversations with people who say, what you're trying to accomplish is not necessary.
Yeah.
And that is so heartening to me, because that tells me that, one, we're onto something, which is, reassuring when you jump into this world of building a software. But two, that the leaders of this industry care as deeply about their people and their experience, I have chills, as we do, sidestepping out of the actual operator and into different roles in the sector. And doing a podcast like this is a great example of that, getting the messaging out, having hard conversations, important conversations. I am seeing that across the board. just about everybody is in agreement and willing to have that conversation. And I think that speaks volumes about who's at the table, and about where we're going and about the adoption of this type of thinking. It doesn't have to be us. I am just happy that we're having this conversation, that it's at the table, that managers who, if we're really seeing turnover in that role, that we're ready to stop and say, we can't, because who's coming? That's the $1 million question, right? Yeah. And so the other thing is, it allows us to take a skill set requirement that is this broad, because I have to be amazing at hospitality, amazing at people management, amazing at compliance management, create my own processes within my department. And now we can start to narrow it down a little bit, right? I'm going to be amazing at hospitality. I'm going to be really great with the people. And the org is going to get me all this other nonsense. Nonsense. Yeah. Critical nonsense.
Critical nonsense. Park for book title.
Critical nonsense. That's a great book title.
I know.
But they're going to take care of that for me, so I can at least get that piece off. That's going to be a retention tool. That's going to be a well-being tool. And, so kind of to circle back around on, why is process important? It's about people.
Yeah. It's really, I think it's just, I love this learning curve that I'm on, talking to people about that, because I've lived it, and I'm not linear. I'm not inclined on the left side of my brain. I'm way more on the right side. And I love relationship. I love, leadership and growth and seeing people develop. And that's squarely where I spent the time I had. And so the bean counting, as you would say, I was like, give me a Claritin, right? I don't even want to think about it. I enjoyed being able to creatively finance and, move stuff around and make sure that stuff got done. But where I desired to spend my time was more with people. And I guess, we're at that critical point now. We're at sort of that tipping point where I'm not sure we have a choice as we go forward, because, my favorite anecdotal story is the pot roast that used to get put in the tiny oven so they would cut the ends off. And 3 generations of people didn't know why the ends were being cut off the pot roast until the grandmother said, well, the ovens were smaller. Yet as the ovens grew, nobody stopped cutting the ends off the pot roast. So it was doing what was always done because it was always done that way.
Yeah.
And I think we're at that place where and I don't think there's anyone sitting around the table thinking, well, let's just give it another college try the way we used to do it.
Yep.
Like, I feel like what you're saying with your ear to the ground is everyone's primed for the next step.
Yeah.
And we're just having that sort of moment of, okay, how are we going to do this, and what are we going to do?
Yep.
And I think, if I may, Kerry, the boldness of, your career path and building Wentoo. And I remember having the initial conversation with you when you told me what you were up to and hearing the excitement in your voice. I feel like it's possible you lit the way, at least in concept.
Right.
Like, to your point, not everybody's going to run out and buy Wentoo, and it'd be great if they did, but we both know that there's competing priorities all the time. But I feel like there's a path forward, in thinking at least.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. There's because we're not the only path to automation. We're not the only tool that's out there that is there to help employees and to help, the frontline execute their roles. So you're absolutely right. But if we can at least get the conversation going, if we can get associations to say, hey, how do we get organized? If we can get operators to stop and say, hey, how do we get this organized? And those people who can move forward with us at the right time, fantastic. And those who just really get good at it in Excel. As an Excel lover.
Oh no, death by Excel.
Death by Excel.
PowerPoint in Excel.
Yeah, it's all good information. But so those folks who have that aptitude and that ability, great, right? The idea here was to move the needle for the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled that the conversations are happening. That to me is the ultimate win. And, I'm just a believer that if we put the right things out there, then, stay true to our leadership mission, values, goals, and the good stuff will happen.
Yeah, I think the intention is set, the vision is set, and then the mechanism will ultimately follow as it does.
That's right.
And we don't know always how that's going to show up. So what about what's happening at site levels? I mean, I'm a little bit zoomed out. You're probably a little bit zoomed out. You've been to some of the OrcaCon and some of the the industry events. So what do our seniors want? Like, what are they saying about where they want the industry to go? Like, are they happy? Are they saying, hey, like, enough is enough? Do we have any insight into that, Kerry?
In terms of the frontline team members?
Yeah, like, are we pulling those insights and is the path being carved by actually talking to residents and families, and like, what's our insight into that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of good conversations have been happening with residents and families. And here's what I think the reality is. I think what families and residents want today is the same thing that they wanted 10 years ago and 10 years before that. And that is to feel safe. And that is to know that they're being well cared for. That is to know that the UCP who delivered the meds yesterday is going to be the UCP who delivers the meds tomorrow.
Care. Yeah.
They know me. They know who I am. They know what I like.
Yeah.
That is never going to change for our sector. And I don't think it's that's not evolving with technology. I think what we have to recognize is that is our primary function, and that function is going to be the same. Much like if we send teenagers into a high school, right? They need to feel safe. They need to feel their teachers care about their outcomes. There's a lot of things that they need to feel. And what we give them to learn and to adapt and to face the future and to stay safe, all of those things are evolving around them. But the fundamental core humanity of what we do does not change.
I'm glad you walked down the garden path I just created for you, because I know it was a bit of a loaded question, because neither one of us are sort of there getting those, real world experiences. But it's the happiness factor, right? It's not like we're not changing what we need. We're like, the moving target is really like being able to take, I think you called it an aspirational culture,
right?
Or an aspirational experience. Like when we sit around talking about what we want to create for people that are coming to live with us in the homes, it's well-intended. It's aspirational. We want to do it. And I think, what we're grappling with more than anything is like, how do we provide ultimately that happiness, and how do we provide that experience?
Well, like, the job gets in the way, doesn't it?
Oh, you know what? Again with the book title. Like, I'm trademarking all of these amazing comments.
The bot and I will get on it.
Yeah, the bot and I. Maybe that should be your book title, Kerry.
Yeah, like, the job's in the way of that aspirational culture. And at all levels, I'm going to say at the resident experience level, at the growth level for team members at the front line, the feeling of achievement that you want to have when you walk away from your day. And then as a manager, like, the job gets in the way of what we show up every day to do. I believe this, everyone gets out of bed in the morning in senior care because they want to take care of someone. Whether they want to take care of the resident directly, they want to take care of their front line, or they just want to take care of the managers, which is what I feel very called to do. Everyone gets out of bed because they want to take care of someone. And so the job shouldn't be the barrier to taking care of someone.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The job shouldn't be the barrier to taking care of someone. Yeah. Is there any legislation or policy we can write that language into, like,
Let's
immediately?
Are they listening?
Yeah.
Is the RHRA on the line? Could you policy that up for us?
Could you just, like, have the bot take care of that? No, it's really, I've always loved our conversations. Inevitably, when we do feel that, it's been a long time, we should connect moment. Inevitably, these are the conversations that we get into. And I'm so excited that we're formalizing that into a conversation, because Kerry, I think, none of us can be bashful right now, because all of us have had an incredibly unique experience in the senior care industry. And it is a call for all hands on deck. Whether you are a technology, whether you are in operations, a clinical person, a CEO, an operations person, whatever your title is, now's the time, I believe, and I'll poll you after I make this very bold statement. It's like, now is the time to speak truth to power. Now's the time to collect your experience and make sense of it. Now's the time to funnel up what's working, what's not working, and meet in the middle with, you know, a curious management, supervisory, head office, whatever, group of people who want that insight. Like, that environment must be created so that we can literally move as one to get this right. And I mean, I'm so fond of all of my experiences, and I'm also super grateful for everybody that has gotten us this far. Because, I mean, the forbidden term and the forbidden word is obviously the pandemic. Like, nobody wants to talk about that. But it taught us a lot. Right? And it taught us that, like, we can live through a crisis and we can get our acts together. And so I think this is a time in our industry, and certainly in history, where everyone has to open their minds and say, okay, egos aside, positions aside, experience aside, let's have this conversation.
Absolutely. We need to have the audacity. I couldn't agree with you more. And of course, these are our conversations, right? We just agree with each other.
That is why I love hanging out with you, because we just make each other right.
You're right. And let me tell you what else is right.
Exactly. Love it.
No, I think you're bang on. And also where the next idea comes from, where the next solution comes from. Who did I think I was?
I love it.
Stepping away and starting a software company, right? Like, at what point did I decide that I was going to have the audacity, right? And what really did it for me was thinking, if not me, who? And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there at all different layers of our industry that are in corporate offices, that are at the front line, who are living the pain points, who have the idea. And I just say, have the audacity to do it. Like, just bring it forward, bring it up, build it yourself. I mean, I stepped away from a corporate role that I loved. I really thoroughly enjoyed my time, and I was very happy there. And I stepped away from it to say, okay, I'm having an impact on this one organization. I think there's more. And so choosing to step away and then realizing, oh, maybe this is the more. You know, I encourage lots and lots of people to take sideways steps. My sideways steps have always resulted in just the most amount of learning and contribution that I could have imagined. When I sideways stepped from finance into operations, when I sidestepped from operations into tech. And so I think we need lots and lots of people from our industry to take those bold steps and to have those, to your point, speak truth to power. And it can feel scary because we think that, you know, there's hierarchies and there's this and there's that. But the reality is, no one leader has all of the answers, nor does one leader have all of the time to implement all of the solutions that they know need to happen. And across the industry, we have to get good at sidestepping, speaking, sharing, being open. And, you know, not every idea is going to make it, but the ones that do are going to have a real impact. And I think that is critical to our success as we go forward.
I'm laughing because you're sitting in my sidestep. You're literally living my sidestep on this podcast right now. And it's the same feeling. Like, who am I to lead a conversation in senior care? Right. But I think that's the action. That's the bold action that you're asking for.
Yeah.
And if it's to be, it's up to me. Yeah. And hopefully, you know, it just generates insight. It generates information. It generates a conversation. And I think, the egoless effort of just getting people to continue to have the conversation it's a great call to action for any of us in the industry today.
And why not you to host the podcast?
I know.
You're the perfect person to host it.
Well, I really appreciate your vote of confidence, and I'm getting there. So 3 episodes in the spirit of being audacious, I felt a lot of love for my CEO because he very gently bullied me into doing the podcast. And I kept thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm a podcast consumer.
Yeah.
And I admire the clarity of people's voices and their ability to string a sentence together and say really impactful things. And I was reminded that they got there by doing it, not by talking about it or imagining or fearing it and not doing it. So this is the sidestep. And I appreciate the support, Kerry, from you. And I just love watching, like, it's like Kerry's going in this direction, usually north, and there's a trail behind you and it's on fire. And I love that.
You're too gracious.
I'm a
Thank
huge
you.
Kerry Chartrand fan.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Wentoo fan because I think you've provided just, again, a platform for conversation, an opportunity to see what can be.
Right.
And I'm so excited to just see what the future holds. And just keep chatting with you and keep collaborating on where this industry is going.
Yeah, same. And you were one of the first people to pick up the phone and say, I need to know more about this when we last year
I was so excited. I couldn't even stand it. I'm like, what is she doing now? And I was, just for the record, so proud of you and so happy for you. Like, good for you.
Yeah, you're so sweet. But like it has really been those, like yourself, those people from years and years of history together saying, yes, this is great, do it, continue on. And I think that cheerleading is really important. And if I can just touch for a minute on women in our industry too, right?
Please.
That the lifting up of each other and taking all those varied backgrounds and, picking up the phone and calling. And, there was, individuals who I didn't even know, who were the first person to comment, the first person to like, and that is the heart of our industry. That's who we are. That's really, it speaks to who we are. And it has been just my pleasure to have you as a colleague and to be on your podcast in the early days.
I know how, as the world turns, like who knows where we're going to end up, and who knows, I've realized as an aside to all the important stuff and all the things we do is, this is a small world, right? So I feel like, in high concentration, we can have a huge impact.
That's
and,
right.
As I talk to people like John Beanie, who again was way up somewhere in the sky when I was running homes. I barely knew him, but I kind of saw him on stage. Having the opportunity to get to know people in a different way and have a different conversation has been such a gift. And I just hope that we can have, just some small impact on, people's desire just to share, keep the conversation going, and just continue to do better. We're doing great. Everyone's doing their part, and it's just continuous improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
Kerry, you said, you talked about women in our industry in leadership. And I think it's a great topic, honestly, because there is, I think, an importance to really like expanding on the idea that like a lot of the roles are occupied by women in healthcare. Like it's really changing. I have to say the landscape is changing, and I'm grateful for that. I would love to know, just for my own, satisfying my own curiosity, how do you see it evolving? Like I know you've come up through the zeros and, you're now doing your own thing. So you have a different level and a different leadership responsibility as a CEO.
Yeah.
So what's in it for women? What's in it? What do we have to offer women as growth and career and success? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I love this topic. So, little fact, 35% of women are founders. This is more tech related than senior living related. But 35% of founders, I think it's actually 33, are females, and we get 3% of the funding.
Yeah.
So I think that signals that while we are making huge inroads, I'm still getting around the table with companies where I'm talking to all men, and women are still not quite at the point of, I would say, equity as we move up the ranks. Because if we go to the front line, we can see that, probably 80% of managers at the front line are women, but we're nowhere near 80% in senior levels. What I am very happy about is just about any operator that I am working with, there are women at the table. And women are making the decisions. Women are choosing us, which I think is really exciting and really fantastic. And so I think we have a little ways to go. I think the opportunity is ripe for us. I think that we have, like all industries, evolved, just not quite all the way there yet. Yeah. And the thing is, the data tells us to promote the women. That the outcomes that we are able to get as leaders, especially as people leaders, like our outcomes are stronger. Investing in female-run companies. I mean, we're bootstrapped because knowing the stats, I said, well, I can have a full-time job chasing money, or I can just put my head down, build it, and take it out to market. And so that's what we did. But that's unfortunate, right? That my perspective is 97% of the cash is available to the men, and then 3% is available to the women. And so that says to me, just don't even try. And so we want to we want to change that. And I think that it's really going to take, we need allies in men, right? I'm going to get a little controversial. Is that okay?
Well, I'll edit you out if you're
okay. Edit me out if it's
you
too controversial. But I think we need to talk about, women are going to uplift each other, and I've experienced that in spades in this past year. Always in my career, I've never not experienced that. But I will say, venturing out on my own, it has been like just a wave of support that is just. I mean, it makes me emotional. I'm so grateful. It's really, really exciting. But what we really need is we need men that are allies to women's careers growing. And so here's my controversial take.
Okay.
When we get on LinkedIn on International Women's Day, what we see is a lot of thanking of the women that are in their lives. And what we need is recognition of the women that are surrounding your career. That we're uplifting the female leaders in your space.
Good catch, Care.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah. That's an ally is going to reach across their what do you call it? Network. They're going to reach across their network and say, I am working with this phenomenal executive woman. She's a genius. She is a contributor. She is I learn from her. I owe my growth to her mentorship. I want to elevate this. And sometimes what we see is, my wife is really fantastic. And your wife is fantastic. And I'm rarely like, that's great. And I think we should always recognize our spouses. And I'm going to say senior living, especially like you're married to anyone in senior living. Like it's a family affair.
Right.
Right.
As I said, I've been sleeping with my phone for 10 years. Like that's not fun for anyone.
Husbands moving furniture and like, oh yeah, it's a family.
You're hearkening me back to like the annex when I said, Bill, we have to go shovel the driveway. And he said, pardon? And I was like, yeah, because we lived in a condo.
Right.
And it was so bad. And I was so worried that I said, like, you big Ukrainian man with muscles, you're coming with me. And we shoveled the driveway. So yes to what you're saying.
Oh, I made my kids play the piano for Valentine's Day. I'm like, you can play the piano. Guess what? You're the entertainment for Valentine's Day. And so off we went. And so, it's a family affair. So I don't want to discredit the recognition of our spouses in our lives and in our world. But when it's International Women's Day, if men are allies, they're elevating their female colleagues to recognition because we're still getting 3% of the funding. And so senior living, I feel, is much more balanced. Believe it or not, I used to often think like, there's no glass ceiling here. I didn't feel it. And then all of a sudden I got
different perspective
high enough up that I was like, oh,
ouch.
I'm the only woman at the table right now. That's an interesting, that's interesting.
Which is not surprising, but it's also, like it's lonely at the top.
It can be. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. And so So I think we have some work to do, all that to say. Like, it is a touchy subject because I don't want to discredit where the good work is getting done. But at the same time, there's more work to do. And that's my one hot take is that, elevate the executive women around you, or executive is the wrong word, but the professional women around you, elevate them.
Well, and I think, hard stop, yes. And I think, I've probably taken an unpopular position on this at times because I'm a little bit exhausted from this permissive air about being a woman. So especially in business, especially in leadership. And I often say to Bill on International Women's Day or on, days we're celebrating women in general, I'm like, I just take my place.
Yeah.
I'm unapologetically taking my place at the table. I'm not asking for anyone to say it's okay. And I think when I'm looking at the ally situation, I fully agree with you, but I also think just elevate the person who's really the best at the table. Gender aside, don't discriminate because it happens to be a woman.
Right.
Like, make the right choice. And I think women in general, like, obviously there's a different set of circumstances that, we often have to overcome to get to where we are. So that aside, like, I am not dismissing that. But we need more boldness and people who aren't looking for that.
Yeah.
Who just say, yeah, I don't need your handout. I'll do the extra work. Yeah. And it's often, I think, linked to the outcomes you're talking about. Right. Like, we're going through the trenches. And I don't, I think controversy aside, it's still an important conversation to have. Yeah, because we're not yet at equity, right? No. And so we have to talk about how we get there. Yeah. And equity in our industry looks like 80% of the women at the table, at the executive tables, are women. That's what equity looks like for us. It's right? Very deceiving. Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think you're right. We need to choose the best person for the role, while also acknowledging that there is just inherent unconscious biases. Yes. Like, I gravitate, my closest friends, of course, are all women. Yeah. Right. And so, and likewise on the other side. And so, as we're moving the other way, like, I'm really seeing the needle start to shift. And I think that is the heartening part about it. I think there's work to do, but also we're making major progress. And we have to conscientiously move past our just comfort. Yeah, it's all like, enough already. Yeah. Enough already. And I think if we tie that back to what we've talked about in terms of being bold, taking action, doing the right thing for the industry, it's really, I think, rigorous simplification. Yeah. So anything that's noisy, like inequity or, frivolous spending or, like really process that isn't optimized, like any of those noisy things, let's get them out of the way. That's right. Let's make sure that we clear the runway for us to do, that heavy lift as the perfect storm is coming that you referred to earlier. Yeah. Yeah. We need to be ready for it. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. I have no more to talk about. I'm completely out of ideas. I don't know that Dateline is coming looking for me to be a host anytime soon. I think they are. But is there a podcast awards that we can nominate you for? Well, feel free to nominate me for any awards. I really like getting recognized. I think I'm not dissimilar from like everyone on the planet. I'll take a $10,000 pay cut to just, be acknowledged for my, famous is, I just mean appreciated, acknowledged. Yeah. But I don't know that podcaster started with their first podcast. There is no reason why you're not the next voice. I love you for that. Let's let the virus clear up before I go looking for, an award for being like the most desired podcast voice. But it's quickly becoming a passion. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Yeah, you're great at it. Thanks, Kerry. Yeah, thanks for your vote of confidence. Thank you. Thank you for having me. My pleasure.